Hey guys, how's it going? It's Dubawesome here with a review of Girls of the Wild's manhwa. Now for anyone who's thinking, why did you pronounce manga wrong? I didn't. Manhwa, it's basically just a Korean manga. Now just to go in a bit about Girls of the Wilds, it's basically about a high school student whose name is Jae Sung. Now, whether I pronounce that right or not, I don't know. I'm not good at Korean names. Anyway, Mr. Song here basically goes into a high school. He lives very poor, so he doesn't have much money. So he gets a scholarship at this high school that he decides to attend because of the scholarship. It was a high school that was just a girls' high school, but they recently went co-ed. So naturally, he feels a little bit awkward, I suppose. Yeah, so he's the only male student here. Shock. That's not something that happens very rarely in anime and manga, but yeah, he's the only male student at this co-ed school for now. And basically he tries to survive, as it's also a martial arts school and he knows nothing about fighting. Actually, he's quite the weakling. So that's as deep as I'm going to go into this, actually. I don't want to go any deeper. Yes, he does get stronger, by the way. But that's kind of obvious. But yeah, I'm not going to go any deeper because I don't want to give away any more spoilers. Anyway, just going over the genres quickly that this anime manhwa is categorized into: action, comedy, drama, ecchi, harem, martial arts, romance, school life, shonen, and webtoons. There's one of the tags that I disagree with the categorized genres, and that's ecchi. Now, I have watched a lot of ecchi anime, and I have read a lot of ecchi manga. I would not categorize this as an ecchi just because nothing ecchi really happens, and there isn't really much fan service either. Or I would honestly say that maybe 5% or even 2% of it is fan service, so not very much. And it doesn't really contain any ecchi scenes per se either. So anyway, I would say just think of it as an action, comedy, drama, harem, martial arts, romance, school life, shonen, and webtoons. That's enough of that though. Let's get on with my thoughts of this series. So, speaking first, I want to go over the story. Now, I have scored the story an 8 out of 10. I'm going to go over some pros and cons for anyone who doesn't know what my reviews are like. Just watch this one and you'll understand how I do my reviews, because this is kind of the format I stick by. So, story gets an 8 out of 10. Now, just going over some of the pros and cons. The pros are that the story is super fun, it's lighthearted, it's pretty unpredictable at times, and just amazing. The cons are some of the chapters can get boring, and the further you get, the more predictable the manhwa can get. Now, that's just something I want to quickly brush over because it's not super obvious on what's going to happen. Because the author is such a great author, there's always little twists and turns that you are just not expecting that do happen. Which is great, because even if you feel like you're able to predict something and you're somewhat right, you'll never get the nail right on the head, because there are a lot of little twists and turns, which are actually really refreshing and really great. So that goes over that. Story gets an 8 out of 10. Moving on to the characters. Characters, I have scored 8 out of 10 as well. The pros are that I cared about almost every single character in this series, and that includes the comic relief characters as well. I'm not going to go over any of the characters, of course. We've already covered one of them, which is the main character. So, yeah, I mean, if you make me care about characters which you are only going to show once every 20 or so chapters, then I like your characters. And this is basically one of those. The characters I was supposed to hate, I did, and I really envied them and hated them, and I wanted some of them dead. And the characters that you were supposed to love, I did as well. So yeah, that's that. The cons about characters are that the author could have done more with some of the characters that they had, because once again, going back to not including some characters, if you have a main character, and now I'm not talking about the main character, he was in every single damn chapter of this series, but you have other main characters as well, and if at a time you have a main character that doesn't appear sometimes for 3 or 5 chapters, then that's where I sometimes start getting worried, especially if I care about all of your characters so damn much. So that's the only cons I really have for characters, to be honest. There isn't much else to say for that. Enjoyability, I have given it a 9 out of 10. Pros being that I enjoyed reading most of the way through, and often lost track of time or what chapter I was on, which is always great. I like getting lost in what I'm doing. If, it shows that you actually do properly enjoy it. Now, moving on to the cons of the enjoyability, because of course, like I said, I've given it a 9 out of 10. So what could the cons be? Well, like I've mentioned a little earlier, some of the chapters can get a little boring, and there is a sense of fillers sometimes when, there really doesn't need to be. Well, generally I enjoyed 90% of my time reading this, hence why I scored it a 9 out of 10, because, 90% of 100, 9 out of 10, I thought it makes sense. So yeah, that's that. Going on to the artwork, which I have given a solid 10 out of 10. I absolutely love the artwork of this manhwa. I don't think they could have done anything better, to be honest. I feel like for the setting of the manhwa, the story and everything, the art was just absolutely perfect. If the artwork was, I guess, better, and I put that in quotes because I'm talking about visually, if it was visually more appealing, I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much, because I've read a few mangas or manhwas where, it was like super 3D and stuff, and it looks really cool, but you need to check whether it matches the setting of the manhwa. And I feel like something that would have been absolutely amazing in like a 3D type thing would just not match with this, which is why I'm happy the way the artwork is. I've given it a 10 out of 10. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm trying to make it... It may sound like I'm saying the artwork isn't all too great. It is. It is absolutely fantastic. I mean, there's a few I'm sure I'm going to add screenshots of the manga or manhwa to this anyway, so there's that. Also, it is in full color. Now, a lot of manhwa, I think there isn't any manhwa that isn't in full color, to be honest, but almost every manhwa which I've read is in full color, and that goes with this one too. It's in full color, so for anyone who doesn't read manga because there's color missing and you're a colorful person, then this is perfect for you. So yeah, 10 out of 10 for that. Moving on. Oh yeah, by the way, pros cons, there really aren't any because I've just given it a perfect score. So I don't have any cons for that. So, I mean, I've talked a lot about it, so deal with it. Anyway, next is the feels. Did this manhwa give me the feels? Before I move on, I will say I have scored it a 10 out of 10. Pros, basically everything for me when it comes to the emotions. The manhwa took me on an emotional roller coaster, and I hate roller coasters, but this was just so damn amazing. I didn't want to get off this roller coaster. There was a lot of smiling on my end, a lot of laughing, and some genuine anger towards some of the characters too. Only one manga has ever made me feel this way in the past, and that manga is Love Hina. Now, Love Hina is the first ever manga I have ever read, and I feel like that's mainly why Love Hina made me feel the way it did, which is basically just when I finished reading it, I was completely sad. I didn't want to do anything, and I stayed in bed sulking that it was over. And I kind of feel like doing the same to this one here. Now, going back to that though, once again, Love Hina, if I would go back to it now, yes, I still feel it's really amazing. It was my first manga, and it's what reintroduced me to anime as well, a few years back. So that's why I still hold Love Hina in high regards. But if I compare it to some of the other mangas I've read, it isn't as good as some of the other ones. And still, no manga has ever made me feel the way Love Hina did. But once again, I still feel like that's only because it was my first one. This one, on the other hand, did make me feel that way. I was genuinely upset when it finished. I thought that only that season had finished. I was not aware that the whole manhwa was just over and done with. When I found that out, I was super, super, super sad for about 10 to 15 minutes. I was like super down about that and super upset, but I'm okay now. And I just finished reading this like 2 hours ago. I actually decided to go out on a drive to kind of get my mind off it, and so I can do this review, which I can do now. So yeah, the cons of feels, because I wanted to put cons for this, is just playing with my emotions so much. As I just said, you know, I had a sense of emptiness at the end of this, and I'll go more into the sense of emptiness that it left on me next, in the conclusion of the overall review of this. Now, although it left me with a sense of emptiness, it's not because I was unhappy with how it ended. Well, not quite anyway. I'm pretty happy with how it ended, to be honest. It doesn't quite want me leaving more, in the sense that I need closure on something, but it leaves me wanting more as in I wish this had more chapters that I could read. In a way, I'm kind of glad that it doesn't, just because I am happy the way that the author ended it. He did an amazing, amazing job, and I'm definitely going to be following their work more now, because, like I said, this was just such an amazing experience. And yeah, I mean, my overall rating for this is going to be a 10 out of 10. Now, that might be a little strange in the way I've ranked some of the other things, since I've given some of the things like an 8 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10. So of course, if we're going on averages, this shouldn't be a 10 out of 10, it should be lower. But I'm completely satisfied with this series as a whole. And like I said, the way it just made me feel, I would feel like I am cheating the review of this manhwa if I don't give it a 10 out of 10. It completely deserves it. And I don't just go out giving stuff 10 out of 10s. So that should give you guys an idea. Now, just to go over some other things real quick, why you should read it is just because it is honestly that amazing. If you're a fan of light romance, bump this to the top of your list. If you're a fan of light action, especially martial arts, bump this to the top of your list. If you're a fan of girl power, also bump this to the top of your list. Even if you're not a fan of girl power, because honestly, I'm not. I am not a feminist. I do not consider myself a feminist. I do believe in equal rights, but I do not believe women are greater than men. I know some people out there do, and you know, that's your opinion. But once again, if you're a fan of girl power, also bump this to the top of your list, because there are no weak girls in this series. I can guarantee you that. They're all amazing, amazing, amazing characters. Yeah, so that's basically it for the whole review. Also, if you start reading it and you're not quite into it, trust me, if I always read the comments of every chapter at the end on the website I read it, and of course there will be in the link in the description to give you guys a link of where you can read this, and you can also read comments. There are a lot of people between chapters 1 and 10, or 1 to 15, that weren't quite too sure about it, but once they got to 10 or 15 chapters, they were instantly hooked. I was the same. So yeah, just give it a few chapters, and I can guarantee you will most likely enjoy it. If you are a fan of light romance, light action, if you like martial arts, you'll probably definitely like this. Also, when I said that, one of the genres is harem, and some people don't like that, I can 100% guarantee you this isn't going to be like the general harem that you get in anime and stuff. It is not like that. It is actually pretty, well, it's different. I don't want to give any spoilers, but it's not like the harem genre that most people are used to nowadays. It's actually pretty different in a good way. So definitely give it a go. Give it a shot. Read it. Anyway, that's it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, slap a like and subscribe for more anime and manga reviews in the future. That's all I need to say. Hope you have a fantastic day, and peace out.